Is this gonna be the new gimmick, the remote control? I can't use my flashlight anymore, but here's a remote control. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that moment in the Stanley Parable, though I've not played the Stanley Parable, I watched someone play it, where it says, okay, now I want you to press the button. Okay, you stuck your tongue out. Great. That's not what we wanted. Try again. Press the button. That's not what I wanted to see. Or something like that, you know, where it's just like, the game's making fun of the fact that, you know, you might press the wrong button occasionally and just like, oh, hey, yeah, press all the buttons until you figure out which one it is. I think I shouldn't have turned that television off now. I'm definitely thinking I shouldn't have turned that television off now. It was not ideal. At least that works. Turn on that television. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere without the other TV on. Well, luckily for me, we have not run into, and they've not made a callback to that stupid commercial that was in one of the parts of Little Nightmares 1. It was like, it sounded very, it was Asian, obviously, but I would guess it was some sort of like Chinese, or perhaps like Vietnamese. Oh, look, another hat. Hello, hat. Okay, I can't pick that one up. I guess it's not a hat for me to pick up then. Never mind. Never mind. I'm gonna wear my postman hat. Alright, it is not gonna let me climb out the bottom here, so there's something I need to do. I definitely need to turn the television on, so let me see if I can't get close enough here in the thing. Oh, now I pick up the hat. Okay, thanks, game. See if I can get close enough to turning the television on in this area. It's always one of those. It was one of those fun things I used to do as a kid. Is I figured out, or perhaps my parents taught me that, to use the remote control, you have to find where the sensor is on the television, and then you point the remote roughly at it, and you would press the button. Like, I would notice, like, other times my dad would be, like, sitting in his chair, or my mom would be watching TV, and they'd basically have, like, the remote on their leg, or whatever, and they'd be pointing it away from, you know, where the sensor was. Now, mind you, I had a television that I'm thinking of had this really old school remote, like, very basic, like, it had the channel buttons on, off, and had, okay, so it had up and down for channels and volume. It had the numbers for the, you know, typing in your channel number. It had a big red enter button, which I didn't know what it did until much later when I started experimenting with it, which is, I guess, part of this story. But I remember my dad, like, sitting there with the remote, and he wasn't really pointing it at anything. He was just sort of pointing it at the wall, and he'd turn the volume up on the TV, even though he wasn't pointing it directly at the sensor. So, like, as a little kid, you're like, oh, that's nifty. So, like, I started, like, taking the remote and, like, pointing it at the back wall to see if the you know, where would, you know, what would cause the television to register the buttons from the remote, and what wouldn't work. So, like, I would cover up the sensor on the remote. It wouldn't work, obviously. But then I would, like, take the remote with, you know, the sensor, my hand off the sensor, point it at the back wall, and, like a mirror, zap it off the back wall and hit the sensor. Which I thought was, like, the super coolest thing ever. Because it was, in my mind anyways, it was like it was sort of like a reflection, or in this case, I imagined it more of like an echo where you're bouncing your voice off a wall and it's reverberating over here. The remote in my mind was shooting some sort of beam or sound wave that I couldn't hear, and it was reverberating off the wall, and it was hitting the sensor, even though I wasn't aiming at the sensor. Hi, lady. I'm gonna turn your television off, and we're gonna see what happens. Probably nothing good, I'll give you that. Oh, that's no good. Oh, no! Not sure what you're doing there, but you apparently sucked my soul out of my body there. Also, I enjoy the no face. That's great. Great thing that you don't have a face, because it apparently eroded away from you watching too much TV. Gonna have to sneak around here, I guess. Sneak around here into the kitchen. We'll see what we can see. You're too involved in the TV, even though there's nothing on. Right. But yeah, I'm glad that that little, like, 10 or 20 second, it was not even that, it was probably like 5-second ad, or I'm sorry, 5-second sound clip. It was like bing bing, bing bing. Made me like really like, it irritates the shit out of me. And by irritates, I mean like kind of creeps me out. Kind of annoying more than anything, because of how loud it was in comparison to everything else in the game. Alright, not gonna let me turn on the TV from there. Let's go on the little balcony. Exactly. Oh, that looks to be about what? No more than 2 feet? More like a foot? Like, I'm outside, but I'm not really outside. I just kind of stuck my head out. We're gonna turn the TV off and run into this stove to hide. Because I'm, yep, pretty sure that was gonna happen. I go from one TV to the next. So this, despite the fact, this is, even though this person doesn't have a face, like I would call it a face. Yeah, we gotta turn this on so we can warp. They're not mannequins. They're not mannequins like they were in the hospital area. So, like, I understand the doctor was taking the mannequins and pulling them apart and putting them back together, and it looked like he was putting souls into some of the mannequins. That was kind of, I don't understand that part. Also, I'm very interested to see what's going to happen when I get back towards 6. I assume she's not going to die, because I presume this is a prequel to the first game. And if that's true, then... Alright, I can turn this off. Oh. Oh, oh, wow. Wow. Wow, you guys really don't care about yourself. You just really want to get as close to that. Oh, almost fell off. That's no good. Really want to get as close to that television as possible, I guess. Okay, that's not quite there, but that's getting that little tune we just heard getting close. Like, it's got that, like, oh hey, we're gonna create a small, short sound bite that's we're gonna repeat constantly. It's gonna get stuck in your head. What you doing? Oh. Okay. They're looking at the tower. Better not... Well, it could be a TV tower, I guess, if that's supposed to be what the building is. Like a TV channel high-rise, I guess. Interesting. Alright, there's a TV. I go through it, and what? Oh. I died. Okay, I guess the game taught me. Hey Chris, you better know where your exit strategy is because the TV is not just going to teleport you, but it's going to throw you out. So make sure that television is pointing at something like, I don't know, a window. Also I'm kind of glad that did not rip the thing completely out of the wall. That would have been bad. I would have fallen to my death and had to respawn here. Yay, I made it. Hooray for me. Ooh, a lever. Let's see what it does. Oh, it makes the floor electrified. That's great. I'm sure I will not use this at all. Alright, let's see what the world has in store for me. Alright, it looks like I gotta remove another board, but I'm like, yeah, we'll run right after that. Run! Flip the switch, quick! There we go. Not sure I had more than another second to go. Yeah, gotta turn it off after you're done. This isn't a baby game where, you know, the electricity shuts off when one guy dies. Ground here. Okay, good. There's a TV. That's fine. We like TV. It's great. It keeps us distracted from the things that will improve our lives and make us more connected to our community. But it's also good because the news, for better or worse, also lets us know of all of the ills that are going on. So, if there's a group of if there's a series of crimes happening, you're more likely... Ooh, hello, sir. What are you? You're like a bundle of like, drugs or something. I mean, you don't have to be a bundle of drugs. You could just be like, a package of clothing or something that's put in a non-box, like a baggie. Which makes sense if you're shipping some clothing. You don't need it to be in a box because what is the box gonna do? I do like how the little mailbox got an eyeball there, so I'm gonna try to deliver this eye baggie to this eye mailbox. Let's see if it'll let me do it. It kind of looks like a rock that they put a rope around, but I'm guessing this is supposed to be some sort of luggage or like vanity bag or something. I don't know. My grandmother on my mom's side had something similar to this in like a plastic, old-timey plastic. She kept her makeup and other stuff in. Yeah, I'm gonna throw it right through the thing. That's not gonna work. Okay. You gonna at least let me jump up here? Nope. It will not let me jump up. I can either... Yeah, I'm about as close as I'm gonna get here either. I was kind of hoping I could grab it and then kind of pull myself up and put it through the delivery box. But it looks like it won't let me hold an item while trying to jump. So I can't even jump up here and kind of try to wiggle this in. I gotta like put it up here like that, then go up, then pick it up, and then try to put it in the mailbox. It's not letting me do that. So that's a nothing. I don't care anymore. Nope, that is not a thing. Just decoration, I suppose. However, I do need that box stone thingy to progress. Hooray for me. Ugh. Alright, let's pull the box over here and go on the trip to the magical land of Elevator. So I have actually, again, I'm referring back to my grandparents again. What? Okay, so they live in an old timey. Well, they did. They're passed long since. But they lived in sort of an old. They lived in the same city their entire life, like a little town along the river. And, you know, basically the whole town was supported by one or two manufacturing plants that were in the local area that you could either A, walk to, or B, drive to, like short drive to. And the whole economy did not revolve around them, but it was heavily supported by them. Alright, let's try it again. We need to, like, actually move the elevator, then teleport ourselves. So, sort of get to the point of my story, and I may have told this in a different episode as well, but you have a, yeah, this isn't gonna work. Flat. Yep, I was pretty sure that was 2 stories, but I wanted to try it just in case it was only 1. Alright, well, let's do this again. So they lived in a town, and it was, I call it old-timey because this was, you know, it was created and flourished in that time period, like I said, after World War II, where, you know, you had your major anchor businesses like a manufacturing plant that a lot of the townspeople would work in, and then you would have supplemental jobs that would come from the fact that these people are making money at a factory. Okay, and this could be anything. This doesn't have to be a factory. It could be, you know, in today's world, it could be you work for a marketing firm, or, you know, you work for a lawyer's office or whatever, you know. But the long story short was a lot of the people that lived in the city were either directly employed by, or the money that those people earned would or the money they would earn would help to bring life to other businesses in the community. So, like, obviously, if you, however you work, you have to eat. Okay, they're gonna have to have grocery stores. Okay, at least one. And then if you have stores like that, you know, you're gonna need other things. Now, again, we're talking maybe in a time when the world was a little bit more isolated or small. So instead of going to your local major furniture distributor, you would go to your local furniture distributor. Okay, this is where the story is eventually leading. And as part of that, we had there was a building downtown. You could walk to it. No, it was kind of a hefty walk, and they have a number of old businesses there, and one of them was a family-owned and run furniture store, and their main showcase was on the first floor, but they had additional stock on a second floor. In order to get there, you had to go into an elevator just like that, where you pulled this wire thing, you know, this you know, I don't know what you call that, across the thing, you know, to basically close it off so that if someone was walking, they would not, I don't know, walk into an open thing thinking it was a door and fall down an elevator shaft. So, I've never seen that before, and I've never seen it since, because by the time I was a kid, or, yeah, that was smart. Bravo me. Didn't know that was gonna happen. Wink. I know exactly what I need to do now. Because, you know, by the time I was, you know, young, you know, conscious, we'll just say conscious, there was, yeah, we're gonna turn the TV off and we're gonna run in, we're gonna electrify this woman. You know, everything was, you're talking mid 80, late 80s, early 90s. You know, you have your department stores, malls have been around for decades at that point. You know, and your elevators are all your atypical, well, I wouldn't say atypical or typical elevators because they are a little different. They, instead of being, there's a mechanism that, you know, so your arm doesn't get crushed. Basically, there are whatever you call those sensors, light sensors. I got you electrified, honey. Yeah, get me. Oh, looks like the electricity turned off, though. That's weird. I was just complimenting the game earlier for this very fact, and then it's like, oh no, we're just gonna overload the circuit breaker and no more electricity. Okay, great. But they use light sensors now in elevators, so in case you stick your arm or someone tries to slip in at the last second, the doors won't close on them, crushing them. It'll reopen the doors and let you in. Well, they used to have this little black thing that would come out, and as the door closed, if you tried to put your arm in, black thing would depress, and it would say to the elevator, oh, there's someone in there, and then the doors would go back open so you wouldn't get crushed. I did like that previous scene that I kind of talked over where it's like, oh, hey, there's now groups of people standing out in the rain, watching TV. I can hear the electricity, by the way, so I know that I'm going to need something to stand on. I presume that's going to be this. The game hopefully was programmed in such a way that this cart that I'm about to push down this ramp will end up in the correct spot. Because I'm not going to be able to control it once it... Well, I guess I can control it once it gets as it's going down the ramp, but if I let it go like that, hopefully it'll find its way to where it needs to be. Which it looks like they created a floor drain there so that the physics would always bring the cart to this exact spot, which is where I need it, roughly speaking. To be a little bit farther, a little bit closer, they'll be able to make those jumps. Ding! Yeah. Yeah. I'm making the ding ding noises. Alright, let's not fall in the water. We're gonna go in the other room. We're gonna turn off the electricity. We're all gonna be happy. Oh good, more of the stuffed animal toys. With the really, really, really big eyes with the dark circles around them. You know? Like, what would it take to get a stuffed animal to do that? Like, back in the day, you would have, like, little eye buttons that you would sew onto some old stuffed animals, and then they started just using string to I don't know what the right word is, I guess stitch. I will just use the word stitch in like an eye, you know, by going over it a couple times and crossing over so it would be embroidered, and that creates the eye instead. But like, what would you have to do to create a stuffed animal where the eye looks like it's bulging out of the head of the stuffed animal at the same time as sunk back into its eye socket? You know, so it's like, hey, we're gonna sew this plastic eye onto this bear, But make sure you put a lot of stuffing around it so it looks like the eye is like kind of recessed in its eye socket. Oh, by the way, and make sure that when you're stringing up the eye, you give it lots of string so that it can like basically be strung into the back of the into some anchor point. We'll say the back of the bear's head, you know, so that the eyes are actually pulling in on the stuffing, the whatever you want to call it, the filling. So it has both a bulbous eye and you know, a sunken eye, sunken eyes. And then make sure that that sunken eye socket, make sure you color that in a very dark black color, so it really gives it a pop feeling of I don't know, being demonic or whatever. I know what I need to do. I don't want to do it though. So, TVs run on electricity. I need this TV to get out of this area, I'm guessing. So, in order to get out of this area, I need to turn the television on, which means I need to turn the electricity back on. Which shouldn't be too much trouble because I've got the cart where I need to be now. I just need to move my body over in that general vicinity. Again, shouldn't be hard to get back into that area where the switch was. It's just I'm making sure that I can make this jump, and there's not like a different way to get through this puzzle. Like I'm checking the things on the ceiling, like this choo-choo train, to make sure that that's not a possible option. Like I can't grab onto it, climb up it. So I do like how Little Nightmares typically, not always, typically gives you, you know, hey, you know, we're gonna give you some stuff to play with. It may or may not be relevant to the puzzle ahead. It may just sort of be something fun to throw around. And sometimes it's actually key, like for instance, that room that we were in with the brain. Like, oh yeah, it's just a brain in a jar. So like this ball here in the middle of the room. What does this ball do? This ball is nothing but to have like some fun with the physics or something, you know? It's not solving a puzzle, it's not creating anything. At least to my knowledge it's not, unless you're supposed to pick it up and, I don't know, throw it at the switch to turn it back on. But, yeah, I thought originally I thought the jar and the brain were like, oh hey, that's just a big nothing, right? And I realized, well, the brain can't smash like the jar can, so let's bring that down. In the case I break both jars, I still have a brain to throw at the, that was closer than I liked it to be. Thank you, game. Try again. Good job. We actually made the jump that time. Alright, we'll go through the TV here. But I'm not sure if the TV has magical powers that you're allowed to transport back and forth between. Or is this my main character? Does my main character have power over TV? That's the real question. No, and I'm not talking about the fact that I have a remote control and I have the power to turn it on and off.